I'm 28 years old this year and have a rather pleasant appearance. My features are delicately formed, with clear eyes and a gentle smile that often catches people's attention. Nevertheless, no one has ever come to propose marriage. It's a situation that has left me somewhat bewildered and lonely. When I was 20, I endured a horrifying experience of being kidnapped. It was a sunny day like any other, but fate took a cruel turn. I was out running an errand when a van suddenly stopped beside me. Before I could even react, rough hands pulled me inside, and my world turned dark. At that time, I was taken to an unfamiliar place, far from home and everything I knew. I was forced to be the wife of an old bachelor for 3 years. Those years were a living nightmare. I suffered inhumane treatment, with endless chores and harsh scoldings. I was deprived of basic dignity and freedom. I gave birth to a son and a daughter for him, but the pain and hardship of motherhood in such circumstances only added to my burden. Later, I seized the opportunity to escape when the old bachelor was drunk one night. I ran blindly through the dark alleys and fields, my heart pounding with fear and hope. Luckily, I was eventually rescued by the police and sent back home. In the subsequent 5 years, I remained at home, too frightened to venture out. My spirit was greatly traumatized. Every time I heard a strange noise outside the door, I would tremble with fear. I felt threatened everywhere, imagining shadows as potential dangers. Fortunately, with the passage of time and the support of my family, my condition improved over the past 2 years. The warm sunlight seemed to penetrate the darkness in my heart, and life gradually seemed to have more sunshine. I even dared to visit my sister's house, taking small steps towards a normal life. My sister has always been kind to me. She has soft, caring eyes and a gentle voice that soothes my soul. She often came to care for me, bringing me delicious food and sharing stories to lift my spirits. I deeply regretted what had happened to me and was extremely grateful to her throughout these years. Her presence was like a steady pillar, helping me get through the hard times despite her busy schedule. My sister and her husband operated a non-staple food wholesale store in the county. Their store was neatly ranged, filled with a wide variety of goods. The shelves were always stocked full, and the smell of fresh produce filled the air. Their business was prosperous. Not far from their house, there was another wholesale store, but its business was sluggish. The owner of that store often looked at my sister's store with envy and resentment in his eyes. On one hand, it might be because my sister and her husband were friendly and popular. They greeted every customer with a warm smile and remembered their preferences. They knew how to manage the business, always offering quality products at reasonable prices. On the other hand, it was also because my brother-in-law adhered to the principle of small profits but quick turnover. They believed that going through hardships was a form of blessing, and gradually, the store entered a virtuous cycle. Just when my brother-in-law's business was flourishing, unexpectedly, he was secretly envied and framed by others. The shopkeeper was a landlord, a man with a calculating and malicious mind. He wanted to force my brother-in-law out of business, but there was no benefit to it. My brother-in-law was a law-abiding and honest businessman. He had a kind face and a heart full of integrity. He never strayed from the right path and had no association with the underworld. However, they were consumed by greed and hired someone to orchestrate a traffic accident. It was a rainy night, the roads were slippery, and my brother-in-law was on his way home from a delivery. A car suddenly swerved and hit him, crushing his leg. The pain and shock were unbearable. 2 weeks later, the case was uncovered by the Public Security Bureau through meticulous investigation. The villains received the punishment they deserved, but the damage was already done. My brother-in-law received the compensation, but it became a lifelong regret as one of his legs was amputated, and he even lost his sexual function. My sister was devastated at that time. Her tears flowed like a river, and her heart was filled with pain and helplessness. Fortunately, my brother-in-law was resilient. He spent days and nights in rehabilitation, enduring the pain with gritted teeth. After more than a year of recuperation, he emerged from the shadows and grief. He learned to adapt to his new situation with courage and determination. My brother-in-law persuaded my sister to divorce him, but my sister refused firmly. She held his hand, her eyes filled with love and loyalty, and stated she would care for him for the rest of his life. After that, she hired another driver in the shop. The new driver was a young man named Zhao Zhang. The business model underwent a transformation. Originally, my sister managed the store at home while my brother-in-law was out delivering goods. Now, the situation reversed. My sister accompanied the driver every day during the deliveries. During the past few years of running round, my sister's heart wavered. My sister is, after all, a normal woman and couldn't remain chaste indefinitely. The long hours on the road and the shared experiences created a bond between her and Zhao Zhang. Eventually, she developed a relationship with the driver, Zhao Zhang, who was 5 years younger than her. Zhao Zhang had a charming smile and a spirit of adventure that appealed to my sister. My sister couldn't abandon my brother-in-law, and Zhao Zhang didn't want to part with my sister. When they were in a quandary, my sister came up with an idea. She intended for Zhao Zhang to marry me. It was last summer. The sun was scorching, and the cicadas chirped loudly. My sister informed my parents that she wanted to introduce someone to me. She said that I was in a better state now and it was time to plan for my own happiness. It was impossible to remain unmarried and stay with my parents for life. She said that considering my circumstances, finding a suitable man wasn't easy. She had known Zhao Zhang and his family for over 3 years and believed his character was good. Although his family situation was somewhat challenging, he was ambitious, hardworking, and didn't mind my past. If I married him, my sister said she would do her utmost to help us rent a place in the county. She described the place with enthusiasm, imagining a cozy home for us. I could also assist in her shop, and Zhao Zhang would continue driving and delivering goods as before. Within a few years, we could earn enough money to buy a house and lead a good life. My parents were apparently persuaded by the prospects envisioned by my sister. They looked at me with hopeful eyes, encouraging me that it was time to consider my own happiness. I was also influenced by my sister's persuasion. Later, under my sister's arrangement, I met Zhao Zhang. He was a year younger than me and appeared very robust. His broad shoulders and confident gaze gave an impression of strength. Under my sister's encouragement, my relationship with Zhao Zhan advanced rapidly. We went on dates, shared meals, and spent time getting to know each other. A few months later, Zhao Zhan tricked me into sharing a bed. When I resisted, he hit me, and in a moment of anger and confusion, he disclosed the entire truth. At that moment, I felt like the sky was crashing down. I never imagined that my dearest and most trusted sister would do such a thing for her selfish desires and ruin my happiness. Who else in this world can I trust? How could my sister act this way? I simply couldn't comprehend. When Zhao Zhan sobered up, he realized his mistake and sought to repent and make amends, but it was too late.